part of defense for the children, for the kids, for everybody. If that generation, if they are raised good, then they will be good everywhere. So the call to help the family and to so the call for to protect the family uh, and to protect it from any attacks from the outside, and to make sure the family is strong and sound, and that they are financially sound, and they are prepared to uh, raise a generation that's going to bring peace and goodness to all humanity. The most dangerous thing that the family might have is the separation between the parents, which was usually happens after disputes between the parents that the parents are not prepared for or didn't know how to handle it. They did not do what Allah has obligated them to do toward these problems and these challenges. And sadly, the road ends in the divorce, which makes the shaitan, the devil, happy. In the hadith of Jabir, that the Prophet ﷺ says that Iblis, he put his throne on the water, and he sent his soldiers everywhere, and the one closer to him is the one who bring the worst fitna, the worst problem. And everyone that comes to him, I did this and this, I did this kind of devilish thing. He tell him, oh, you didn't do nothing. Until someone comes, one of the shaitans, one of the devils, he tell him, I did not leave this person until I separated between him and his wife. Then he bring him closer to him. He bring him close to him and say, you've done a good job. You are the one who've done good. So he hug him and he bring him closer to him. He makes him sit next to him. He said, you are the best. This is what shaitan is looking for. This is the medal that the shaitan put for those who separate between the husband and wife. And in the other hadith, he's not among us the one who help a woman against her husband, whether the person who caused this problem, whether a male or a female, does not matter. That mean it's the expression that he's not among us. This is something the Prophet ﷺ talk about, someone who have done a major sin, like magic and other things that are a major sin. So protecting the family is one of the from collapsing or any problems. And of course, divorce is one of the worst. Divorce is one of the worst things that people could go through. And we need to protect our communities outside the Muslim countries in general to from this kind of disaster and to the marriage. The families nowadays, no matter where they are always surrounded by so many dangers. And the international conferences that are held under the topic of urban conferences, and one of their major uh, achievement that they wanted to market on the Muslim countries in particular, and and in all over the globe, the following: that marriage is a contract between two persons, but we know that it is a contract between a man and a woman. but they wanted to have all the things that Allah has forbidden that we see nowadays. That all religions are disagree with this kind of statement. And with that first pillar, they are given legitimacy to lesbians and the people who do the act of the people of Lut, and allows things that Allah has forbidden in every religion, and poison all cultures, all communities. And they change all the laws to protect this principle, that and change all the laws that force the courts to accept. The other thing, the separation between marriage, sex, and fertility. For us in Islam, it is one thing. The person marries and he is protecting himself, and he's hoping to have the righteous son or offspring, male or female. So this a new principle that trying to push to separate between marriage, sex, and having kids. They want each one to be separated. That they want the marriage to be separate from fertility, and to be separate from having sex. They don't allow sex outside the marriage, because they are spreading sex outside the marriage. And they are trying to make them three separate entities. Of course, with that kind of principle, then they could bring abortion, because if you allow sex outside the marriage and you separated both of them from fertility, then they allow abortion. Natural when you do that, when sex is there, meaning there is kids, and then they bring that since these are three separate things, then they talk about the freedom of not having the kids and to kill the child, with no going back to any religion or any ethics. And we found abortion, it's done in public with the government superseding it. It's not like something that is done secretly. No, this is something that is done in public, and they make it very clear that it is something that is done publicly, safe, that is they can do it with no danger from anyone in the society. This kind of principles that are brought to our communities, to our countries, to our cultures, whether the Muslim or non-Muslim, they are and they are trying to force that people who do not accept this, that they will be economically they will fail economically, and they will have like some kind of economical pressure on them to accept this kind of principles. So they allow the they allow the marriage from the same sex marriage, and the separation between marriage, sex, and fertility. And unfortunately, the Muslim communities, instead of giving and teaching people the right ethics, they are receiving all this danger on their own communities. So we have to be careful about all these dangers that come surround the family, and to protect the families from any of these dangers. And then you have what is known as the marriage, the violence in marriage. There is conferences that are done about this topic. The Islamic International Conference, they did conference in Al Sharqa under the topic about marriage violence, and they defined it as actions that happen in one of the family with violence that bring pain or harm financially or psychologically, and it is something that's a crime because the Sharia wanted to protect the the community that always order what is good. And in America, Amja has, they have a different definition that they put it in a different. The definition, it is the marriage violence in the American law is the use of force in within one family or people who have relationship or between like boyfriend and girlfriend and marriage, or the parents with the kids, or vice versa. And also it has the physical violence or the threat of anything before, and there is no separation between there's no separation in that crime between the 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 raising that you are trying to teach someone a lesson, and whether you use violence always or one time. Everything under the law is one. This is under the law of United States about family violence. In Sharia of Islam, it is an expression that has generate, if it is mean the to hit on the face or bring or break the bones or bleed, it is forbidden with no doubt, because the evidence that there is no harm should be brought to anyone. But if it is the minor uh, use of force with limited force, the in the purpose to teach a lesson, and then it says, and if the laws criminalize it, then you need to stop it and to find other ways to raise the kids so you will not be harmed under the law. We need to always stay away from the physical uh, use to teach people, because the Prophet ﷺ, who is our best example, he never hit a woman or a child ever, or any person, unless he is making jihad in the sake of Allah, and he never hit a woman or a kid, no matter what. And you only, it is allowed if it is like the adultery or something is about to happen. The marriage is a contract that is on the satisfaction and the acceptance. So if that is not there, then the people could either continue their contract or they could void it. But the man can finish this contract by divorce. So how about the woman? She can ask for the mukhala, because Allah the Almighty, just like He gave the divorce to the man, the right of the man, if he didn't like to live with his wife, He also allowed the woman to ask for khul' if she cannot stand staying with the man, because Allah said that they have the same rights and goodness, and the man has an extra degree or status on them because, of course, what Allah gave the men over women physically and financially, and that financial responsibility. And the man have no way to force his wife on intercourse, because this forcing that will bring emotional and physical harm that is forbidden in Islam, and that and in Islam that does not get to the level of rape like it is defined in some other cultures, non-Islamic cultures, because rape is to be forcing someone into adultery, not in marriage. In the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, if a man asks his wife to sleep and she refuses, the angels curse her until the morning. If a man called his wife to have sexual intercourse and she refused, the angel will curse her or curse her until Fajr. That's if he stayed at night angry at her. But if he asked her and she refused and he accepted her reason, then there is no curse, nothing, I guess, because Allah said they have the same rights that are upon them in goodness. Just like the man has that right to ask, the woman has the same right of getting the satisfaction from her man and ask him that. So it is a shared right that they both have. And that's why when the man intentionally refused to stay with his wife with no reason, that it's a sin. It is in the Quran that people still recite this in the Quran. Allah said, for those who swear that they will not sleep with their wives, to wait for months. If they come back, Allah is most forgiving. And they insist on the divorce, Allah listen and knowledgeable. Allah want to protect the woman. If her husband ignored her in the bed, Allah gave him 4 months. Either he will come back or he divorce. And if they came back, then Allah is most forgiving. If they insist on the divorce, Allah could hear and knowledgeable. Because to protect the person from sexual intercourse outside the marriage, it is a right of the man and the woman to protect each other, so they will not have that outside. So if the man don't have a Shari reason to do that, she had that right to ask divorce if she could prove that, which will give her the right that she be separate from her husband. With one divorce, he cannot bring her back except with a new contract, and she deserves all her financial rights, from the late dowry and the gift for the separation, because Allah has gave that right for the one who are divorced, as Allah said, their right on the righteous people. And another issue, because people ask, where is the protection of Islam to the woman? A man divorces his wife after 10 years, 15 years, and she say, where is my right? You get like some man and go to the street. No, And in the law of this country, no, they don't stop there. They give more protection and give more rights. No, this is the ignorance about what the Sharia has brought in this area. The woman in her breastfeeding, they had the right, the to get money for breastfeeding or nursing her child. She deserves money for herself and for her kids. If she breastfeeds, she had more, because Allah said if they breastfeed, then give them their money, their uh, employment as an employee, and the expense of the child. And this is part of the Islamic culture, and some of it are very clear in the Quran. That is very clear. If the children stayed with their woman until reach uh, or the woman until they reach they marry, the man still had the financial duty towards his kids, and also on the mother, because she's the one who is doing it. And this is on the majority of the scholars of Shafi'i, Hanabila. And then the mut'a, which is the gift that happened after the divorce, it is the right on the righteous, and it is a gift that is given to the divorced woman. If the divorce and the woman, if she get divorced, she have the to get paid for 2 years. And Islam did not allow the woman to stay out in the street like we see some people do uh, without implementing. Islam protected the woman and gave her some rights after the divorce. So the protection of the family from all the dangers that surrounded it is one of the pillars in Islam that we hope that we are aware of it and we understand it. If we go back to the decision of the Islamic Conference, it's not it's not a violence. If we stopped the the condoms and stuff like this, is preventing of the rights. The abortion is not allowed except for the minor reasons that is allowed at a certain time, and also the forbidden of the homosexuality. Uh, the, as much as there is equality in between the man and the woman, but there are certain laws that are not uh, a joke. Like a man cannot get pregnant, and I heard it from some of the women who are going to the extreme about the equality. They said that the science allow the man to get pregnant, so he can see the the uh, the pain of getting pregnant, and he will know what is the woman go through. So the science, I mean that woman really wants science to find ways to get the man to get pregnant, so they could be equal as they claim. Of course, that's not. It is not right. The If there's a dispute between a man and woman, she don't stand alone against her husband who is outraged. Her family, they stand behind her. When the marriage happened under the sight of her family, they will be there to support her in case her husband try to oppress her. About what happens to the inheritance, where Allah gave the man double the share of the woman, and we said before this is not always the rule. There's certain time when it is equal, like the brothers to a mother. Sometimes the woman will inherit another man, or sometimes the woman more than the man. But Allah is saying, Allah, uh, Allah is advising you on your kids. The Islamic way to solve the family problem is not to cuss and curse or to demonize the person, because the Muslim do not cuss and curse, nor does he demonize someone. Cursing the Muslim, it is disobedience, and fighting is disbelief in Allah. People who cuss and curse, they will not be witnesses at the day of judgment. So you have to stay away from cussing and cursing and putting down the people, and to stick to the Islamic law, like Allah has put in Surah An-Nisa, to stay away from homosexuality. Allah said for the righteous women, they are protecting themselves in absence with Allah. But Allah said for those that you fear them to go to the extreme, then you hit him, of course, without the limit we discussed, and advise them and stay away from their sexual intercourse. And the hitting here is not something that you do, it is something that you indicate more than something you do. And the Prophet ﷺ said, and your best will not hit. The right man will not hit anyone. And he alayhi salatu wasalam was the best example, where he never hit a woman, child, or even a servant. And Allah said, if you fear that they're going to separate, then put an arbitrator from your family, from her family, and if they really are serious about bringing these together, then Allah will allow them to do that. If the man and woman cannot find a way to come back to each other, they need to take a step back and find someone who could represent them, and try to find a common ground that they will be able to advise them to finish this problem. either to bring them together or to separate them in goodness. And Allah made them to come together with the will from both sides of doing good, because Allah said if they want, if they intended, if they wanted to goodness, then Allah will make it successful. But and we have to go to the worst solution, which is the divorce. And the Sheikh is giving so many names for that divorce. There's a protocol that you have to follow, that you have to do. You have to know that we have discussed it before. The first one, you have to divorce on sunnah, on no period that you didn't have sex with. If she had her period, you have done haram. And if you have it in a time when she had no, you have sex during that period, which show that the person who is always with his wife, she's either pure or she's pure. If she has periods, you cannot touch her, you cannot divorce her. And if she purified and they hadn't had intercourse during that time, then he should not. He could divorce after she finished her period. This way, it gives the person some time to think back, because sometimes if you are angry, it gives you more time so you could calm down, so you could understand, so you will not. If you made a decision because you are mad, that moment of anger will not break that house. And Allah said you could break that once. You divorce once. And the man and woman, they stay in the household as obligatory from Allah. Allah said, fear Allah, do not take them out of their houses, and they do not go by themselves unless they do a big sin. And these are the bounty of Allah. Whomever exceed them, he have done transgression on sins. You don't know, maybe Allah will bring something good. Maybe the divorce will bring a shock. Sometimes you have to treat people with a shock. When a person about to lose his wife, and they get close to that day, maybe this will make him regret and to reconsider and do what he can before he have corrupted so much. If we have reached the end and the iddah is done, then we have a minor baynuna. Then they are look at the children. If they are minor, they are there with their mother. And the person who divorced, you have three things. You have to spend money on his kids, and of course their mother is as well, so she has her share too. Shafi'i and Hanafi and Hanabila, she had her share because she is taking care of them. Because if she leaves them for him, he's gonna hire someone, and that maid are not going to be the same relationship like they have with their mother. So she's staying to take care of her kids. And the rule, whomever dedicate himself on an issue, then he need to be compensated for his time. So the alimony, and if she was breastfeeding and she did not volunteer to breastfeed, she can ask for money for the breastfeeding, because that's an extra, and this is not. This is what Allah said in the Quran, because Allah said if they breastfeed for you, then you have to pay them for that. This is in Surah Al-Talaq. And the Sheikh is saying exactly what you could find it in the uh, in the Quran? Because if he had a problem, don't forget someone else will breastfeed for him, and he have to pay her. And the mother is always better to breastfeed, to be there with her kids, to raise them than someone else, a stranger. The Sharia is the our guidance, and it is the highest arbitrator, and it is the safe umbrella for all the family and the family members, in the time when they are happy and when they are angry at each other, when they are put together or when they separate. And Allah says, and whomever exceed Allah's boundaries, he has transgressed himself. You don't know, maybe Allah will bring something good after that. And we always say that the family disputes are done through the masjid and the Muslims community. And to go with the laws of Allah, we should not let our secrets and our problems and our weaknesses to be exposed on the courthouse and to be exposed to non-Muslims. And sometimes, unfortunately, if that's the only way, then you have nothing to do but to go there. Sometimes the woman, one of the parties cannot get their rights through arbitration, then that's when people have to go to the civil law, when the Sharia cannot guarantee the return of the rights of each. And those who cannot be uh, ruled by the rules of Allah, he'll be humiliated by the rules of the civil laws. So to bring the authority to protect the rights, sometimes it is a way that people do not transgress on each other. Allah said, He have put the judge so it will separate the dispute that people cannot do with themselves. And I repeat again, the volunteer arbitration, it is better than to go to the courthouse. Within the Muslim community, it's for those who believe in Allah and the hereafter. And Umar al-Khattab used to say, take the dispute until they make up, because the separation on the court will bring the hatred between the two parties. When we make up and try to find common ground, then there's still some harmony and some goodness. Because if there's kids, even if they're separate, there's kids that's going to be the common ground between them. So there should be a good relationship between the man and woman, no matter what. And it has to be under Islamic way, which is the human way, the humane way, that they could help each other to raise their kids. Someone gave the example of the two couples who are disputing, just like two people who are standing in the street next to the freeway. They leave their kids run in the freeway and they're fighting and talking about their own dispute. First of all, you're supposed to go and take care of your kids, so you don't leave your kids outside in the freeway running between this dangerous highway. Try to protect them, bring them to the safety, and then talk about your own personal issues that you have with your partner. So always have to think who is your priority is. And remember Allah Azza wa Jalla, and know that He is overlooking you, overlooking after you. Remember, Allah does not leave anything behind. So do whatever you want, like you are doing, you will be getting back. Nothing will be forgotten. At the day of judgment, this book will not find anything small or big that without counting it, and they will find everything they've done present. And Allah do not do any wrong to anyone. And whomever do wrong, we will give him a great punishment. The transgression, it is a destruction to the houses. And it is for those who transgress everything on earth and dislike it, they will give it away in the day of judgment. And they have seen from Allah what they did not anticipate. They have seen from Allah what they did not think before. Astaghfirullah. We ask Allah to protect us from the transgression. The Sheikh is making dua. Say Amin. Inshallah, we'll continue on Monday.